So here's the bottom line. Social media can own us. Amen? Amen. I don't really want to say that. Amen? A contributor to Scientific American writes about this. She says, "My dependence on devices reached an embarrassing low recently. As I hurried to leave for work one morning, I patted my back pocket and realized I did not have my phone. Seconds later, in a fully automatic behavioral response, I patted my back pocket again, this time reaching for my phone in order to help me find my phone. Shame washed over me as I realized the thought process that I had just went through. I don't know where my phone is. I'll just get my phone and help me find it." For those of you who maybe aren't connected to your phone so much, but you are a detail person. How many people have ever owned a day planner in their lives? Or a calendar? Thank you. Can you imagine what would happen if you were to lose that calendar? Can you feel the shortness of breath that is coming over you, that your schedule is being lost and left behind? I want to add to that nomophobia the idea of no calphobia, no calendar phobia. Oh my gosh, I don't know my schedule. In her book, Power of Off, Nancy Collier wrote this: "We are spending far too much time too much of our time doing things that don't really matter to us." And I'll give you a prime example. How many people in the last year have had a part of that cultural awakening known as Pokemon Go? Yep, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Blame the other person, Marky. I see it. Yeah. Oh, not me. Yeah. Anybody above a level 24? That's where I'm at currently. Yes, I have played Pokemon Go. Don't I look better for it? I mean, we do. We spend hours at these things that have no value towards our future. The best thing about Pokemon Go is that so many people got excited about it, we started going out of our houses and actually walking. So it had a little bit of social redeeming qualities, but very little, because I figured out how to do it on my bicycle, and it's much quicker that way. And you can get to a lot of Pokestops on a bicycle. Let me tell you, it has no redeeming quality. But we do these kinds of things, and that's just one application, one game that's out there. I could go on and on. There's over 1 million apps now to choose from, and most of them have absolutely no value in our lives. And then our phone itself has the ability to be a major distraction. Do you know what I mean by the red bubbles on my phone? Anybody know what I mean by a red bubble? When you turn on your iPhone, and down below there's a little red bubble by the mail. It tells me how many messages I have. I can't stand the little red bubbles. And I wake up in the morning and there's red bubbles waiting for me. And they're all over the place. They're on Facebook. There's like red bubbles because somebody was talking to me. So I had to get rid of those red bubbles. And it really is a thing for me. And my friend Samantha Noonan, who is our preschool director, was just a polar opposite of that. One day I went over to her office and she had 17,000 messages in the little red bubble. It was a great big bubble. Drove me crazy. And see, that's what the phone is doing to me. There's those little red bubbles. I'm probably got one now from Culver's telling me what the treat of the day was. And I need to fix that and be a part of that. In some ways, for the older generation, this has replaced that marvelous invention when it came out that we knew of as the answering machine. Do you remember the answering machine? You would come home at the end of the day to see how many messages you had. And your popularity was based on the messages. But the difference was that we could come home at the end of the day. And how many people now, if you have answering machine messages, really just kind of go through, there's one from 800 number, there's one from social, there's the school calling again to tell me something that I don't want to know. Get rid of them. They have no value anymore, but we still have an answering machine. But what the difference is that we came home to that. And the rest of our day, we waited until we got home and got those messages. Today, it is instantaneous. It is, as soon as somebody wants to talk to me, they can talk to me, whether I'm up here preaching or not. I had my phone up here one day, somebody called me. And that's the difference, and it's taking over our lives. The bottom line is this: our schedules also compete for our rest. There's up and beyond what we're doing with our phones and the time that we've put into it, we have our social media that keeps us busy with the games and things like that, but our very lives are busier today than what they used to be. Life has become full of stuff to do. In the first service, I talked a lot to the folks there about, and some of you may understand this, but most of us don't, but when I was a kid, you went to the doctor. And nowadays, you have doctor's appointments on Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday, and you have to get there. And all the people in the first service have multiple doctors because we are specialized, and the insurance companies only allow them to spend about 10 minutes with you, so nobody can really figure out what's wrong with you. It's a mess. That's the kind of schedule. On top of that, we've developed these lifestyles that say more is better. Carpe diem. Seize the moment. To urge someone, and that means to urge someone to make the most of their present time and give little thought to the future. Now, when I was young, my summer schedule, when school was out, went like this. I get up in the morning and I ate. Then I waited for my neighbors, the Shells, to call and invite me to go swimming at their farm. And then I went swimming at the farm and came home and did the same thing the next day, and the next day, and the next day. The highlights of my summer were July 4th, there were fireworks, so that was an extra special day. And then the street fair in August. They would close the main street of my town. You can tell it's not a very big town, but they closed the main street of my town and brought in a carnival, and it was marvelous. That was my whole schedule. 2 weeks ago, I got up and drove 4 boys to Ormond Beach to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I went to work. And at 2:30, I went back to pick up the boys at the soccer, and as soon as I dropped them off, I went back to work, and then I had a meeting that night, and then at 9:30 at night, I drove my son to play indoor soccer over in DeLand to get home at 10:30. I drove 180 miles on top of working a whole day, and then repeated it the next day. Anybody getting tired yet? There is no time left for rest. And it turns out even our sleep is being impacted by phones. How many have their phones in their bedroom when they go to bed at night? Oh yeah. How many, let me ask a more personal question like the lady on the video. How many have them in bed with you? Even more. When what happens is that I didn't realize this, but I keep my phone on mute and vibrate all the time, mainly because I preach and someday I'm going to have it in my pocket. If it were on, you'd all hear it. But I keep it on vibrating just in case of emergencies. But I realized this past week as I was preparing for this that when every time a message pops up, I wake up. So I was the phone was right beside my bed, and the thing popped up and came up and said something like, "Newsflash, thunderstorm in the area." Now, mind you, you'd think the thunder would be enough to tell me that there was a thunderstorm in the area, but it comes up, and what happens is, whether I want to or not, I break out of that deep sleep and see the light and start being impacted by the light and seeing whatever else is going on or the latest tweet from Twitter or a soccer trade on the ESPN app. You know what I'm talking about. My screen lights up, and I often wake up and I can't tell which one it is, so I have to get up and check on it. Nothing better than getting out of bed to hear that a soccer player just got traded, let me tell you. Especially since I don't know one name from the other. It doesn't really matter to me, but I have it on there. So I started this week turning my phone over so the message light would not make my sleep light as well. And so I just found out a couple days ago that there's this night shift. You know what I'm talking about? Could have told me that. Where were you all these nights? But there's this night shift to keep it even darker. But the point is, our phones are impacting our literal sleep, whether we know it or not. It's taking us out of that deep sleep and bringing us into that higher level and making a difference in our lives. And it's making us tired. Anybody else tired?